In this video, we are talking pixie dusters versus Disney haters. Okay, this has been going on now for a while, but it's really been, I don't know what we want to say, really amped up as of late. The conversation amongst fan circles has really heated up. Anytime we're talking about Disney, it's been absolutely crazy. So Citrus George, Mr. Matthew Muir have joined me today to talk about the Disney fandom. Up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG 55. Today we are talking about the Disney fandom, the name calling, and just the overall ugliness going on right now in the fandom at large. I'm going to start with my fellow Italiano, Mr. Citrus George. Welcome back on the channel.
Thank you for having me, brother. And great to be on with our good friend, Mr. Matthew Muir. I mean, it's like every time I try to come on, it's like our schedules like never kind of coincide with one another. So I'm glad to be on here talking some shop with you both. But
Absolutely.
but if anyone wants to try to find me on social media and attempted to, you could do so on X at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go, George. Welcome aboard. You are officially clocked in. And we got Mr. Matthew Muir down below. And Matthew, I will be linking your Instagram. Your Instagram and your Twitter X down below, because Matthew's account, his handle has a lot of numbers in it. So it's easier if everyone at home can check it out in the show notes. But Matthew, welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Thank you. Very good, thank you.
It's an honor and pleasure having you on.
It's going to be quite a contentious topic, this.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about this. Okay, so this has been a thing that's been, the whole idea of this with the fandom, right? Where and I get this a lot as a Disney content creator. I get this all the time, right? I'll make a video maybe defending Disney, right? Saying like, well, I don't know, guys, I don't know, that thing doesn't bother me that much in real honesty. The paint scheme on that building, it's not ruining my day. I'm sorry, it's just not. I could lie to you and say it is, but it's not. And then I'll get in all the comments. Oh, look at this pixie duster. Look at this shill. I'm like, why? Because I'm not like super angry over some little thing. I got other things in my life to worry about. So there's a lot of this going on, and it happens on the other side too. The positive people will go after people that are more negative and say they got Disney derangement syndrome and things like that. So it is happening on both sides. Matthew, I'm going to start with you. What do you think is going on with the Disney fandom right now? Why has it been so contentious? Why has it been so tense amongst fan circles when it comes to discussing Disney?
I think at this point it feels like the fandom is beginning to split into two separate camps. First of all, it's splitting into the haters who really want Disney to go in under simply because it's gone woke, or even simply because they just don't think anyone other than Walt was really fit to run it. And then you've got the shills.
Right. Yeah.
And there's people like us, there's people in between.
Yes, exactly. 100%, Matthew. And that's the thing too, is like there are, and I've said it in videos before, and I got nothing against anyone's politics, necessarily, but it's like, I feel like a lot of the conservative movement right now is like rooting for Disney to fail because they think it's like woke, right? So it's not so much like we want to fix Disney. It's more about like, I want to have a trophy. I want the trophy on the mantle, like, because they went woke. I want as much damage to happen to Disney as possible. And so I see like a lot of rooting for Disney to kind of have hardship because like, well, they went woke and they kind of want that. At least that's how it comes off. And if it's not the case, then that's fine. And, but it just comes off that way. And I don't know, for me as a fan, a huge fan of this company for a very long time, a big fan, obviously, of Walt Disney and his legacy. I just, for me, that's gross, regardless of what you think of the current management team, because it's like you're willing to take down this 100-year-old company started by this incredible man, Walt Disney, this legacy that he built. You're willing to take that whole thing down over some politics of the day. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but for me, as someone who cares about Disney and the company and the legacy of Walt, that rubs me the wrong way. And again, I could be reading the room wrong. I mean, it could be that maybe these folks are not trying to do that, and they really do have the best interest of Disney at heart. But a lot of times, it does come off like they just want as much damage as possible, basically to Bud Light the Walt Disney Company. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, well, if you care about this company, let's work to get it better. Let's constructively work to improve it, you know? But what do you think, George? What's going on with the fandom, with the pixie dusters, the Disney derangement syndrome, the two extremes? Why are things so tense? What's going on here?
The Disney community has definitely divided itself into two groups, two teams, and it always feels like that we're in one big game, one big match. It's like one is saying something over to the other, and then vice versa, going back and forth. I don't consider myself a pixie duster or a Disney hater. You know, I find myself on the middle ground. You know, if we were talking all Star Wars, then I'd say the high ground. But
Yeah.
but
Hello
so it's like, but there's you know, when Disney does something right, you know, I'll give them praise. If they do
Right.
something not so great, I'll call them out on it. You know, it's just, so it's like no matter which way you go, you have the other side saying, "Oh, it's just Disney because you love it, so you'll give them praise for whatever you do." And then you have the other side where it's like, "Oh my gosh, you hate Disney just because they're doing this or they're doing that." So I try to tend to keep myself like out of either way, and quite frankly, it's basically politics, because now Disney is in that category where it shows who the person really is through their political background. Because majority of the time, if you're for Disney, people look at you as being on one side of the political party, or if you're against Disney, you're on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, because this company was founded, as you said, OG, by a man that just wanted family entertainment
Right.
to give the, not even just like the whole entire world, to come together, watch his movies, watch his television shows, go to his theme parks. It should have nothing to do with politics, and unfortunately, it does, and it's very sad. And it's, I think, with social media now, where people can give their opinion and give their thoughts and their frustration, it comes out all the more.
Oh, 100%. And look, to be fair, you know, I mean, Disney, I think they're improving, and I think they are turning the ship around. But to be fair, they did insert themselves in a lot of politics with the Florida bill and things like that. So I understand the conservative side of that, where they're like, hey, look, you know, they inserted themselves, right? But there also, but there comes a point though, when you see the company trying to turn around, when you see Bob Iger say, hey, we're gonna distance ourselves from that. We're gonna try to bring the temperature down with the culture war. When he's telling you exactly what you want him to do, and he says, I'm gonna do that, and you're still like, no, man, fuck Bob Iger and fuck Disney. And it's like, come on. Like, then that's when I personally am thinking, well, okay, is this really about fixing Disney then? Because he is literally standing there telling you that they're working to change what bothers you. Now, look, maybe you don't believe him, but at least hear him out. At least give him the shot. I mean, at least he's saying that there's an interest there at Disney to do that, you know? And I think that's very important. So I don't know. What do you think, Matthew? You think that about that? You know, the arguments that, you know, Disney was too woke. Now they're trying to they're trying to minimize the culture war.
Some of the arguments on the conservative side, I think, were justified, but we need to give Disney a chance in this case to turn it around. It does look like there is more of an interest this time to turn things around than there was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, 100%, Matthew, 100%. There's a financial interest too. Like, you know, I mean, Disney is going through a hardship right now in a lot of ways. We talk about it, Matthew, all the time on Twitter, the DMs, George, on the channel all the time. It's going through a tough time. You know, there's no denying that. And Bob Iger wants to save his legacy. And if he feels like, you know, this stuff is going to be a hurdle or a hindrance to to saving his legacy and to getting the Walt Disney Company to a place of financial health, they're gonna alter course. And I gotta tell you too, Bob Iger was never a super woke lefty. Okay, he played ball during that time period because I think he felt like that's where the money was at. But I used to be, full disclosure, I was a Bernie bro in 2016. And I remember distinctly the arguments, the public fighting between Bernie Sanders and Bob Iger because Bernie was too far left. I remember those days. So Iger at his core is not super far left. He went along with the ride a few years ago because he felt, oh, okay, well, this is the trend and it's going to make me money. But he, at his core, that's not who he is politically. I know there's that narrative out there that he's like super woke and he's like, like basically, Jill Stein or something. He's just not. He's a bajillionaire. Believe me, he's not that woke. But he'll play ball to make money. Absolutely, But
Spoken
George,
like a true politician.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And George, the other thing is too that what a lot of people tend to do in today's age, especially on social media, that if someone is working internally within the company that that's not really doing the Walt Disney Company justice, then people then label just that one individual against the whole entire company. And it's like they don't realize. So like for people who, yes, people are fans of Bob Iger. There are people who are not fans of Bob Iger. Right now, currently, he's the CEO of the company. But despite of him running the company, that is upon him as an individual, as a person. They tend to look at the whole company and say, oh, the company is the face of Bob Iger, where that's not the case. There are hundreds of thousands of cast members. There's hundreds and thousands of employees that work under this company, and it's not fair to them to label what the company is just by one person's decision or one person's action towards the company.
Oh, 100%, 100%. You have a company with thousands of employees, cast members, all these people behind the scenes, making magic, right? It's unfair to to paint with that broad brush because Bob Iger is this way, then the whole company is that way. Yeah, it's not fair at all. It's not fair at all. So that's a great point, George. That's a really, really good point. And you're right. There is that out there, and that's one of the issues with the Walt Disney Company is that all of its executives, the big time executives over there, they're celebrities, basically. I mean, Bob Iger is a household name. Kevin Feige, Kathleen Kennedy. Everyone knows these people, but you go like, for example, Universal, not many people know Brian Roberts. You know what I'm saying?
Who?
Like Brian Roberts. Who's that? Yeah. Ask our buddy Hedge. He's a big Brian Roberts fan, No, but so that's also, I think it comes into play here when, with the fandom is that there's this, and this has been happening for years. I mean, long before Iger took over, back in the Michael Eisner era and all that, where fans kind of demonize or even lionize executives. Like, this executive is bad. Everything they do. It's like Chapek, right? Everything Chapek did was bad. Everything he did, every decision, everything he did was bad. He was a one-dimensional bad guy, mustache twirling villain to all these fans. He could have saved a baby seal in front of 1,000 people at Santa Monica Pier, and the fans would be, oh, look at this asshole. Why didn't he? Why does he hate baby walruses? That's the kind of mentality here that these fans have with these executives, and.
Well, let's be fair, OG. We have to be a little bit more realistic. I don't think he would necessarily go for the seal. I think he would more so go for the hippo.
Yeah, the hippo. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it, George. That's exactly it. So, Matthew, I want to start with you. So, with this next question, because this is kind of interesting. I want to be constructive here because we're kind of laying out the groundwork as to like the problem, right? The name calling, the sort of like this, like us versus them kind of thing. Oh, you're a pixie duster. Oh, you're a Disney derangement syndrome hater, and this war, right? How do we get through this as a fandom, Matthew? Like, if you could talk to the entire fandom, how would you suggest that we sort of work our way through kind of healing and sort of becoming one fandom again, where we can actually all maybe while we disagree, we work together to improve this amazing company?
I would say just try and take just a short moment to reflect and try and understand that these people, while they may sound like shills in some cases, most of them do have the best intentions of the company at heart.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, people, yeah, and that's the thing too, is like you might sound like a shill, right? Because everyone's definition of that is like different. And that's why when people call me a shill, I don't care. I play into it. If someone calls me a shill, I go, oh, okay, yeah, I have, actually, I got to run. I got brunch with Bob Iger in Malibu in 10 minutes. I'll talk to you later. I play into it because it's such a ridiculous thing. If anyone watches my content or reads my tweets, I'm not a shill. I'm very critical. Last summer, I made like 4 videos on how terrible Disney was because they cut the Walt Disney speech out of the anniversary. I was mad, and we're critical all the time here on the channel. So, I don't really fall into this whole arbitrary threshold of like what makes a shill and what doesn't. I don't really give a shit. Disney's never contacted me or tried to sponsor me or has ever given me any early access to anything, and I don't want it. Because I enjoy having that freedom of my opinion on the channel.
And you don't need it.
And I don't need it. Yeah, exactly, Matthew. What do you think, George? How can we heal the fandom and kind of bring these sides together and maybe work together again instead of constantly
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be a long road ahead because us as people, we're creatures of habit. And we are very stubborn in our ways, depending whether you agree that you're for Disney or you're against Disney. And I think people just need to wake up and take this company for what it is supposed to be. That despite of, who is running the company, whether they want to get in bed with the politics game or what have you, we as the people should just focus on one thing, and it is a company about family entertainment. Go to the movies. Go to the theme parks. Watch the television shows. Listen to the music. I remember where it's like when you go into a theater, especially for a Disney movie, you're sitting amongst the crowd that has the same interest as you. Or even take the D23 Expo, for instance, where we are among other Disney fans, nerds like us. Do we really stand and look at each other and pinpoint to say, well, their views on Disney is this, their views? No, in that moment, we are all just Disney fans.
Right.
But why does it have to be for a Disney event to do that? Like, why can't we just be like that in every day on social media or not, and just come together and say, you know what, this is our common ground. This is our interest. We still love the company. We could all have differences of opinion, but
Right.
it's like, can we be respectful about it?
Yeah, it's just about respect, Yeah, you're right, George. It's about respect, and it's about respecting someone else's opinion and not going like automatically to the name, right? So if like someone goes on Twitter and is very critical of the Walt Disney Company, it's important to be like, okay, let me hear this person out and let's see what they're trying to say instead of going, oh, this person, Disney derangement syndrome. He or she is just they just or vice versa. If someone says something positive, like, hey, you know what, I liked the live action Little Mermaid, right? And they tweet that out. It's important to like,
and then
hey,
you're blackballed.
Well, then you're like, oh, this person's a shill. How can they like that movie? Why not? Why not? And it's very, very ugly. But I think as fans, we sort of have to like try our best. I try really hard on the channel to hear all sides of the story. I mean, we do, George, right? We bring a lot of people on, all various opinions, all walks of life, all politics. We don't have an echo chamber here. We're not just catering to the same viewpoint. We're always bringing on different viewpoints, and I like that, and I want to continue to do that because I think that is important too. I think that like when you actually sit down with people that disagree with you, I think people would realize just how much we all have in common. It sounds cheesy, but it is kind of true.
It's true.
As Disney fans, true Disney fans, like there are some people that just hate the Walt Disney Company, and that's fine. You hate it. What can you do?
Yeah,
but if you really,
there are some people who are just purists who really believe that no one after Roy Disney died in 1971 was capable of running the company. There are purists.
Yeah, that mentality, I never will understand that.
I don't either, because even and bless his heart, even to Ron Miller, excuse me, Walt's son-in-law, he ran the company for some time, and he made some decisions that hindered the company in a negative impact. So you can't necessarily just title it as, oh, you have to be part of the Disney family. Oh, you have to have the Disney blood running through your veins in
Right.
order to be running the company. You don't even have to be, and I think that's part of Disney's issue right now is they're constantly going for people that's already working internally with the company that may not know too much what the company is actually all about. That's just like the person that they got that built the Disney Wish. She was never on a cruise in her life. So it's like it's I don't know like how that would even happen. That's like me
It's wild.
becoming like designing a mall or something. It's like, yeah, I know a mall, but I don't know the inner workings of how to actually run a mall. But yeah, I'm gonna architect and blueprint and build a mall. It's like, God, that disaster would be uh, horrendous.
Or
But
it'd be like OG designing like a football stadium. I haven't watched an entire football game in my entire life, right? It's
ex-
like, where do I
exactly.
start?
And then it's like you have like the Michael Eisner and Frank Wells era. You brought them in from two other studios that had nothing to do with Disney. They came in, they worked together in a partnership, and they ended up saving the Walt Disney Company during the Renaissance era and into the Disney decade. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, you have to already be working internally in the Walt Disney Company for how many years to qualify to run the company. No, what makes you qualify is knowing what the hell you're doing.
Right, exactly. And this whole mindset that like the company should have died after Roy passed away. The company should have ceased to exist. Like that to me is, to be quite fair, honestly, a really kind of stupid viewpoint. There was a lot of good stuff that came out of the Walt Disney Company after Walt and Roy passed away. A lot of good stuff. I mean, look at that entire first 10 years of Michael Eisner. Look at the Renaissance era. Some of those movies in the Renaissance era, dare I say it, were even better than some of the movies that even Walt Disney did. Beauty and the
Mm-hmm.
Beast. I mean, that's the crown jewel of animation. Stuff like that. And you're willing to throw all that away for what? For what? I don't even think. I mean, I know Walt wouldn't approve of that. I think he obviously he even said it in interviews that this Disney will be here long after Walt Disney. He's said that in interviews. He understood that. He also put a lot of trust in other people, like his animators and things like that. He understood the value of that. It wasn't a one-man show. So this whole idea of like, oh, well, when Walt and Roy pass away, then we might as well just pack it up. Man, no, no. And look, the company's going to go through ups and downs. That's just life, and that's just the way things are. There will be times when Disney's churning out hit after hit after hit, and there will be times when they're struggling. It's been the case in this 100-year-old company for 100 years, and it will continue to do that for another 100 years. And fans are just going to have to get used to that. Not if you're not always going to have a golden era, a Renaissance era. There's going to be down times, and a lot of times, actually, through those down times and downturns, the company actually gets better on the other end. We got the Renaissance in the first 10 years of the Michael Eisner era because the years leading up to that were so bad. Right? So sometimes you need those bad times to hit that rock bottom so you can get better. So, and I don't even think we're at rock bottom right now, to be honest with you. And you see it a lot on Twitter and stuff, like, oh man, this is the worst it's ever been. It really isn't. I mean, I'm an older guy, and I remember 2005 with Michael Eisner, and even leading up to when Michael Eisner took over in '85, it was a lot worse, I think, in my opinion, than what we currently have. So, I don't know. I think fans, I just think we need to turn the temperature down in the room a little bit. I think that there's more constructive ways to talk about this company than just the name calling and, that side and that side. And, we'll see. We'll see how it all pans out. But I know all of us here, we're rooting for Disney to do well. We don't have to love everything, and we don't love everything they do. We're critical, but at the end of the day, we do want them to do well. We don't want to see this company collapse or go through hardship, for any reason, really. If they, so we'll see. But Matthew, before we close it out, any final thoughts on this topic?
I would say that we have. You're probably right in saying, but we haven't hit rock bottom yet. But we may not even reach that point. So I would say the best thing we can do as a fandom is just keep the faith.
Yeah, well said, Matthew. Yeah, exactly. Well, and yeah, to be fair, Matthew, yeah, you're right. I mean, I do see the company rebounding. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, they want to get out of the culture war, right? And obviously, Iger has said many times we have a quality problem here at the studio. We're trying to, instead of just pumping everything out on Disney Plus frequently, we're going to make sure that it's quality first. So more quality, less quantity. So they understand the issues and they're working on it. It's a massive company. And fans get frustrated like, oh, well, Bob Iger hasn't fixed it. He's been there almost a year. It's going to take time. It's not going to be overnight, and there's a lag with this stuff. So the content you see today is a product of 3 and 4 years ago. So we're not going to see immediate results. And I don't know why fans don't understand that. It's kind of strange, but we are rebounding. I don't think we're going to, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to hit rock bottom. I think the worst of it is probably behind us. Again, anything can happen. I mean, it's, whatever, but I agree with you, Matthew, though. I think we're on the ups. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I do. I think we have to give credit where credit's due, and we have to give Disney a chance to rebound because, as you mentioned, OG, even from back in Walt's days, he had issues. He had obstacles and challenges that he financed his house in order to, build the studio that is now. He took a lot of risks, and risks.
The strike too. His own team went against him.
Exactly. The strike, the war. Everything in that time era was against Walt, but he pushed through it. He took a lot of risk, and risk, does have rewards, but it also has challenges. And you have to know that if you really truly believe in something, then you have to go in it wholeheartedly. And if you don't, then don't do it at all. And Walt believed in that, and he believed in his people. He believed in the fans. And that was and quoting to him, that was his greatest reward of what he was able to do for the people, for the community, for the fans. And we have to continue to carry his legacy, that it may not be exactly to the same as how he would want it, but you just have to have that mindset, that mentality of like, what would Walt do? How would he handle this? It may not be to the exact final outcome, but it's still something of you're working your way through it. And I think, and we're going to be doing a video soon. We're going to be talking about it, and I think honestly, we might be starting to see the upclimb with Disney Animation with the upcoming feature film Wish. I mean, that trailer got, Frozen style response just through the trailer.
It did. Well, the numbers were, I think, the best numbers for a Disney Animation trailer since Frozen 2. So that is a very good sign for this movie. And we've been saying a lot here on the channel where, these classic Disney fairy tale musical films do well. I mean, they're usually the films that do very well, and they're usually the films that start a new golden age. If you look at Disney history, usually these films are a start of even a bit like bigger things to come. Even so, I agree with you. I think that this looks very good for Wish, and they need the win. Strange World, that died a dog's death at the box office. Disney needs a win. And when Disney leans in on being Disney, which was what I think these fairy tales are and these musicals, when Disney leans into being Disney, I think people like that. They want Disney to be Disney. Remember, Disney was kind of getting away a little bit from like their standard kind of film leading up to The Little Mermaid. They were doing like these other films that were like, it wasn't like the classic Disney kind of thing. And they were floundering. No pun intended.
It wasn't until The Great Mouse Detector came out that they started to pivot back towards it.
Exactly. When they started to get back to their that kind of their Disney roots and the film started to feel more like Disney, that's when it started to go up again. So Wish feels like a Disney movie. And I think the audience is I think the audience are they're going to support it, embrace it. I think it's going to do very well. And that trailer, those numbers, that bodes extremely well for that movie. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. But at the end of the day, though, I think my final closing thoughts are this. I like talking to everybody, like whether you're more negative or on Disney or more positive on Disney, as long as we can all be respectful and as long as we can all come to the table and agree, hey, you know what? We might not agree on everything, but our goal is the same. We want a better Walt Disney
I think
company.
your mic's on mute.
My mic's on mute?
Oh, sorry, I thought it was on mute, but somebody's just on the phone, sorry.
No worries. So I think as long as whether you agree or disagree, as long as we all have the same common goal, commonality of like we all want a better Walt Disney Company, then I'm on your team too. I want a collection of ideas and thoughts as to how we can improve things. And I don't have to agree with someone 100%. I don't agree with you fellas 100%. That's okay. But I think at the end of the day, as long as we all have that same kind of like, eye on the prize, like we just want Walt's company to do better. That's the way to go, And I think the fandom, yeah, it's ugly. It's social media. You're right. I think, George, I think you said it. I don't think in this age it'll ever really improve. It's just the nature of the beast with the internet at this point. But at least we can try our best on this little corner of the universe to try to make it a little better, right? So we'll continue to do our thing. But thank you all so much for watching. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. And before I do, I want to thank you, OG, for again having me on the channel, talking shop. And Mr. Matthew Muir, always a pleasure. So glad that we were able to finally get on a video together and discuss some Disney. So we're glad to have you on, brother. But in any case, if you want to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast called A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Perfect. Here we go. There we go. And then Mr. Matthew Muir, like I said to the audience before, I will link his social media down below. But Matthew, again, thank you, brother, for coming on and talking Disney with us, sir.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you also so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on the fandom, the pixie dusters versus the Disney derangement syndrome people. What's going on with this? Does it annoy you all at home as it annoys us here? Can we get past it? Can we get through it? Can we all just coincide and,
basically what OG is saying, everyone cut your bullshit.
Yeah, cut the bullshit. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.